You're listening to First Fossil. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first fossil. Hello and welcome to First Fossil, a show where we learn together how to take that first fossil toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olusola, and today I have a very special guest to me. He was my pastor in Maryland when my parents moved up there a few years back, and he officiated my brother's wedding. He has been more than a pastor. He's been more of a friend and brother to me, and I'm just super excited that he gets to be here to share a couple of fossils with you guys. So without further ado, please welcome my friend, Pastor Cesar Gonzalez. How you doing, Cesar? What's going on?
In the quarantine right here, you know what they call it? I don't know if you've missed this. Out here, they even spell it out. They pronounce it quarantine, like corn, like,
corn.
Quarantine. So we're out here in the quarantine and on the eastern shore of Maryland having a good time.
The quarantine, guys. Yes.
Quarantine. That's right.
The quarantine. That's what's happening today, guys. We are all on the quarantine right now.
I know that nobody else can see you, but you look fantastic. Your smile, your hair, everything. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this and to see you.
I know.
We usually communicate via text and stuff.
This is nice.
But it's great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. This is good. I'm really excited to talk with you. I know you have some pretty cool stories to share that I think the Saints would like to know. So let's start with you kind of introducing yourself to the gente. Let them know who you are, what you're about.
Sure. My name is Cesar Antonio Gonzalez Rodriguez.
Oh, y'all heard that? Okay. Cesar. Damn. I heard that. It's cool.
You can call me Caesar. I was born in Panama, Central America, and grew up in Miami. So I consider the 305 part of my formative area for my home, really. But I've been living in Maryland for the last 20-some years. So I really am a Marylander now.
Wow.
I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor of two beautiful little churches on the eastern shore of Maryland. And I've been a pastor for the last, 12 years now, 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
And before that, I worked at the world headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I was in charge of young adult ministries for North America, and then later on, volunteer ministries for North America. That all sounds, those are the highlights, but in between all that stuff is where all the juicy stuff is.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that more in depth.
Let's get to the Hugo. That's right.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let's start with your personal fossil, the first one, and kind of explain what that situation was. I think you were talking about how you basically got into your role as a pastor and what that journey was
like. I was telling you, and for those that are listening and are saying, oh, here comes a pastor talking about, God and this and that and the other, please hang on, because I'm going to talk about some of the greatest mistakes that I've ever made. Specifically dealing with relationships a little bit later on.
Yes.
Okay. And I've made plenty. I started dating when I was 13, and I got married at 30. And between 13 and 30, I made a lot of mistakes. And my wife laughs at me about them now. So, hang on for those. But yeah, everything good that has ever happened to me, I can trace back to one particular decision. And it was a kind of a crazy one. I grew up in Miami, like you guys heard. Grew up in Miami in the 90s. And Miami, especially South Beach, where we all hung out in the 90s, is not the family-friendly place that you go to now. it was wicked, and I mean that in the I mean that in the negative sense.
Mm.
Um, and I was a part of that. I was in bands, and drinking and the drugs and all of that. I did all of that, and I had grown up a Christian, or rather, I had grown up a churchgoer, because there's a big
Ooh,
difference between
yes,
that.
there is.
There's
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference between, and I say this to my audiences all the time. There's a difference between as a churchgoer and an actual Christian.
Yeah.
And so like I said, dabbled in all those things, and I had come to a place where it was interesting. I thought that I had found my calling. I was in my early 20s, and I had excelled in language and writing and stuff in school. And I found a magazine that was looking for a managing editor. It was a style magazine, lifestyle magazine in South Beach, about clubbing. Essentially, that's what it was about.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh yeah, it was a great life.
Yeah.
For the time, I'd show up to the office around 2 in the afternoon. By the time I got there, the fax machines. You guys remember fax machines? Probably
Yo,
don't.
fax machines. I've only seen those in
Fax machine.
pharmacies.
The fax machine back then. The fax machines didn't even have normal paper. They had this rolly stuff paper that came in a big roll.
Oh, and you just like stuck it in the thing. I
Stuck
remember
it in
this.
there, and when the faxes came out, they would roll back up. They would fall out of the fax machine and roll back up. And when I got to the office, there would be all these rolled up pieces of paper from all the best clubs in town. All right, and this is Miami, okay? All the best clubs in town, asking me if I wanted to be added, or if I wanted to add anybody to their VIP list. Every day, my day started like this.
Oh, wow.
And so I would look through them and see what was going on in each one, and there was a promotion or a special guest or whatever. And I would say, well, this one seems interesting. I should, go and cover that or whatever. And I would write my name on it and then fax it back to them. And then I would write and do my managing job, whatever, from 2 till probably 6, 7 in the evening. Then I would go home, eat, shower, maybe take a nap, and then head out to the clubs around 11. And then I would go from club to club, and there's a guy with my name on a clipboard, and he's waiting for me at each club, and there's a line of people, and I would walk to the front of the line, and they open up the velvet rope for me, and I'd walk in, and I'd have people waiting for me to show me around, because I was there to cover stuff. So I was an important guy.
Yeah.
And at 23 years old, this really, it can get to your head. In Miami, of all places, it can get to your head.
Yeah.
So I would do that, and I would be arriving back home probably 3, 4 in the morning, or Denny's or something. I remember meeting, what's his name? Oh gosh, the name of the band escapes me now, but he became famous later on at a Denny's. What's his name? Anyway, we'll go back to that. And I'd sleep till noon, and then get back up and wake up, take a shower, eat, and then have lunch, and then go back to the office. And that was my daily thing. Wow. And the alcohol and the drugs and everything just kept going and going. And then something interesting happened, Candace. Guess what?
What happened?
The magazine that I was working for went out of business.
Oh, there went all his faxes.
Yeah. Just one day, it was over, and that was it.
Wow.
And I had stupidly invested money in the magazine because I thought it was going to do well.
Oh.
And when it all went away one day, very quickly, it went away. I didn't have a dime.
No.
At one point, I remember thinking to myself, all right, I have $6.36. How can I make this last the next 4 days? $6.36. And so I lost my apartment.
Ooh.
I lost my girlfriend.
Oh. Oh, that's rude.
Yeah.
She done left you because, oh, that's the, oh,
Well, come on.
shame.
Listen. You
Not
have
a
to.
ride or die. I can't. I'm mad. No, I'm mad. I'm salty. I'm sorry.
Hold on a second. And we're gonna talk about that very same thing a little bit
Okay.
later on.
Okay. We need
Kind
to
of
talk about that.
relationships choices you should be making. But she hung out for, I don't know, a week, and she took stock of the situation. I don't give me that look. You
Uh,
guys, you didn't see the look she gave me.
a whole week. Let's give her a round of applause.
Right.
What?
Right.
Okay.
So, it's totally fine. We're friends on Facebook now. Okay.
Oh,
It's
okay.
totally
Oh, it's
fine.
fine now. That fixed
So
it all.
she took stock of the situation and said to herself, where is this guy going, and do I want to go with him? And at the time, I was living in a van. I mean, think about it. Yeah, you see, yeah, things change when you start to get the details. And I was couch surfing and trying to figure out a way to live. When I had the $6.36, by just chance, I got invited to a party, a nice party. And when I went to this party, they were handing out expensive Cuban cigars.
Oh.
And I took as many as I could and sold them. And that's how I got by.
Hustler.
Okay, yeah.
Hustler. Can I have another one?
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't get one. Can I have another one? That's
Yeah.
so great.
That's exactly right. Look, she's laughing. I was selling cigars to subsist. Okay?
I can't even.
So I was homeless, living in a van, selling cigars. Why would you question this poor woman's decision to leave? I mean,
She gets a pass right now. I'm so sorry. That was a hot mess. That's such a struggle.
so that's what happened. And in the middle of all that, I would, I'd have to eat, and I'd use the money that I got from selling cigars to eat.
Yeah.
But the only thing, listen, and I completely understand people with addictions, and I deal with a lot of people with addictions.
Mm.
The only thing that I thought was keeping me going at that time was liquor, because I could drink myself into a daze and not have to worry.
Yeah.
Not have to deal with the anxiety of the bleakness of my life.
Mm-hmm.
My life was so incredibly bad. I went from VIP at all the best clubs in Miami to living in a van and selling cigars.
Rough.
Think about that. And so the only thing that kept me going was drinking. And I would spend a ton of money on drinking. And whenever somebody allowed me to couch surf at their house, and have a meal, I have a friend who I am forever grateful for, and she's still a wonderful friend of mine. My friend Pam back in Miami, she would let me sleep on her couch and feed me Chinese food.
Aww.
And she would do that, for days until something would happen and I would have to leave. And she took care of me for a while. Sleeping on her couch one day, run out of money for liquor, and I had to choose between the two. I could either eat or drink. And at that time, alcoholics get to a point where they start choosing the liquor over food. But at that point, I was still choosing food. So I was sober. And it was like 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm sitting on her couch, trying to sleep. Laying on her couch, trying to sleep. I started thinking about God. Now remember, I grew up going to church. But something had happened earlier when I was in my late teens. A pastor had made fun of me in front of my church. Yeah, let me tell you that story real quick.
Oh.
I was in a large church in Miami. There was about 800 people in the room at the time. And the pastor was preaching, and I fell asleep. And the pastor started calling my name. And when I woke up, he was telling everybody why I was asleep. It was because I had been out partying the night before. Mind you, he was calling me out. Mind you, at that point, I was 18 years old. I couldn't go out legally and party. He may have been right, but I don't recall that being the case. Mm-hmm. I really, really don't. I don't think I was. Yeah. But he was saying, look at this guy, he can't stay awake in church because he's out partying all night the night before. Wow. And of course, do you expect me to stick around after that? I never went back. And I left that church and never set foot in a church for about 6 years and became an atheist after that. Because I didn't think that God existed. When my problems got worse and I kept saying, well, if God loved me, he would be taking care of me. You know, all these things kept building up, and I said, no, there's no way there's a God. Or either he doesn't exist, or he's not powerful enough to take care of my situation.
Wow.
I have to handle this. So I became pretty much, God doesn't exist, whatever. So that night, I'm sitting on the couch, trying to fall asleep, and I can't because of the anxiety. I mean, it's just so thick that I can't do anything about it. And this is the decision that I made that I've been telling you about. It all boiled down to this one thing. I said to myself, all right, you've tried everything. You've been at this for months now, and your life isn't getting any better, okay? You had given up on God, but let's do an experiment. As scientifically as you can do an experiment when it comes to God, okay? Let's say that there is a God, but he's weak. All right? And he cannot give you a job or get you your girlfriend back or put you back in an apartment. You're in the situation that you are. I said, let's say that that's the case. What can he do? All right? And I said, all right, Lord, if you are there, I'm going to make this as simple for you as I possibly can, okay? I am going to make this so easy. I'm not going to ask. I've already done all these things. I'm not going to ask for a job. I'm not going to ask for my girlfriend or a place to live or anything. I'm going to make this really simple. Give me enough peace that I can sleep tonight. And that's it. Wow. You don't have to do anything else. That's what I need right now, okay?
Yeah.
I've been up for like 3 days. I need peace. So I prayed that prayer. I rolled over. I went to sleep. I slept like a baby. Woke up the next morning. I thought to myself, well, of course I slept like a baby. I haven't slept in 3 days. You know? So the moment I got some money, I liquored up again.
Yeah.
And kept living my life like that. But a few weeks later, the same thing happened. Out of money, no liquor, been sober for, a while, and I can't sleep again. And I remembered that prayer, and I said, okay, if it worked that time, maybe it'll work again. And I prayed the same prayer, and I slept again. And from that day on, Candace, I have to pray that prayer in order to sleep every night. Wow. That happened when I was 24 years old.
Wow. How long were you praying this prayer?
What?
How long were you praying this prayer? Was this like months?
No, man. It was. I prayed that prayer that first time, and that was the first prayer that God answered immediately for me. And here is what I'm telling you now is a lifetime of understanding of what happened in that moment. Yeah. I could not understand what was going on. Okay, right. But I learned this over the years. I have come to understand this. Number one, peace comes from God. All right.
Yeah.
God is the purveyor, the whole purveyor of peace. You can't find peace anywhere else.
Wow.
Okay? Even insurance salesmen don't sleep well at night when things get bad. Okay?
You're right.
So, peace only comes from God, and I have come to understand that. Number two, that was the beginning of a relationship with God.
Yeah.
That was I had been treating God like a Santa Claus in the sky.
Yeah.
Like a sugar daddy. Like I was, some sort of trophy wife,
Yeah.
And that's the problem that a lot of people have when they're asking for signs. Signs get you hooked on the signs.
Right.
If God had given me my job back and my girlfriend back and all of that, my relationship with him would not have changed at all.
Right.
Right. But it was this tiny little thing that said, okay, hey, listen, there's more. And what you need here now is this peace and this little bit of a relationship with me that will grow into something. What you need that is that rather than your job or your girlfriend or all these other things that you thought were what defines you. And what defines me now is my relationship with God.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and that was the very beginning. Now, let me tell you, it didn't happen overnight. It took probably another 16, 18 months for me to set foot back in a church.
Yeah.
Okay? But that little bit of having to pray every night started to become something bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I didn't pray, I couldn't sleep.
Right.
And so it started to become a real relationship with God. And by the time that I set foot back in a church, I was invited by someone to come to this church. And I went to the church, and I was excited to, be somewhere that people didn't know me and stuff, because this was a different church. And I walked in, and there was a, I don't know if people know what camp meeting is. Camp meeting is like a huge gathering of a bunch of churches in one area. But these people were watching the camp meeting via video. And so there wasn't even a real preacher there. And I'm like, well, I picked the worst day to come here. And this guy that was preaching was saying, God has something for you to do. And you know that he has something for you to do. And you know that you've been running away for years, perhaps, from doing what God has asked you to do. And when he said that, Candace, I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Wow.
God had asked me to start a magazine for young Adventist people, for young Christians, a lifestyle magazine. And I had been saying, no, 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 no. And I walked into that church 16 to 18 months after I started this relationship with God. And God said, I put you in that magazine so you could learn how to make magazines.
Wow.
But that was a magazine that I wanted you to make.
Right.
Now you're going to go make the magazine that I want you to make.
Wow.
And so when I saw that, I freaked out. I left before the service was over. I walked outside because I came with a bunch of people and I had to wait for them. And I walked outside and I said, okay, all right, I heard you. You're going to have to work this out because I don't know what you mean. I'll do it, but you're going to have to work this out. About 4 months later, I was living in D.C., starting my 1-year internship at the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, working on a magazine that they were trying to get on their feet, a lifestyle magazine for young Christians called View Magazine. The funny thing is that the magazine that I had been working on was called Review.
Stop.
Yes. The magazine in Miami was called Review. And the magazine that I ended up working on at the world headquarters of the Adventist Church was called the View Magazine.
What?
Yeah.
You need to review for the View. Hey, the real View.
And 6 months into my internship there, I knew that my life was completely changed. Like the way, the miracles that kept happening in my life.
Wow.
One after another, and God saying, okay, this is the path that I want you to take. I knew that I wasn't going to go back to do anything else, that ministry was it for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And I worked there for 10 years after that, and then I left there and became a district pastor, a church pastor. And I've been doing, that was another thing, I had sort of another high-profile job, flying around, talking to people, in charge of things, and I was burning out of that and decided that I needed to change. And we moved out here to Cambridge, and I was going to do something else. I was going to go back to publishing and just, do that. And then the economy crashed, and all my publishing work dried up. And instead of having a year's worth of work, I had about 3 months worth of work, and then I needed a job. And the local conference called me and said, hey, could you help us out? There's a church here in town. And I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it, but it turned out to be best, career thing that I've ever done. The most fulfilling thing that I've ever done is be a local church pastor.
Wow. And he's really good at it, guys. He's really good.
Yeah. That the one decision to have this daily prayer and in a larger sense, to give my life completely to God, has defined and given me all the opportunities. You know me. I've been all over the world. I've done a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
I've been a part of a lot of amazing things and not so amazing things as well. And I've gotten to know a lot of incredible people like you and your family, who are just the whole Olusola clan is amazing. And it's because I made that one decision, that one paso. That was it.
Yeah.
And like I have. Oh, you know Jim.
Yeah.
Jim Brighton, who is one of my elders here. I've learned a lot from Jim. Jim's a wise
old
man.
Jim. I love Jim, man.
Yeah, he's amazing. And so Jim has taught me two things. Jim has taught me, first of all, that some people will never be what you want them to be, and you have to be okay with that. And that's hard as a pastor. Your job is supposed to, you're supposed to help people and change them and see the light and this and that. And he's like, no, Caesar, you have to be okay with, some people are just never going to be what you want them to be. And the other thing that Jim has taught me is that making the decision is the hardest part, especially when we're talking about God. Making the decision is the hardest part, because what we have to understand about a relationship with God is that He does all the work. We don't do anything.
Right.
We just decide to allow Him to.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
We decide to allow Him to do all the work. If we think that we do some of the work, then we don't understand the gospel. We don't understand grace. We don't understand what it is that God is trying to accomplish. And the beautiful part about that is that once you make that decision, what follows are nothing short of miracles. And if it wasn't so, it wouldn't be the gospel. It wouldn't be divine. It wouldn't be, godly in any way.
Right.
It has to be this way. It has to be miraculous. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If it's not miraculous, it's something that we can achieve, and, that is worthless. I don't want to be, I tell my people, I don't want to be a better version of Caesar anymore. I want to be what God wants me to be.
Yeah.
And that all stems from making a decision, from making that first step, not attempting or not living a certain way. Let me tell you, aside from that prayer, my life didn't change. I would pray at night and drink in the morning. I mean, that was my life. And it was my relationship with God that started to take care of those things. It wasn't my attempt to fix myself.
Wow.
And the worst thing that Christians can do is to attempt to fix themselves. And that's how churches become these
work-based,
the powerless self-help groups that go on for decades, and everybody's still the same.
Yes.
And there's no power and there's no joy, and and it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Yes.
That is what that's the worst thing that can happen to a Christian, to fall into that. I'm going to hang out with these people and we're going to get better little by little. No, it's a miracle. You should get up every morning and expect miracles if you're a Christian.
Yes, man, that's.
Do you have any questions about my drinking and whatever?
I'm just like, it's refreshing to hear a pastor talk about who they were before being a pastor, because I don't know, I get into these conversations a lot with people where we hear it all the time in politics, where it's like the tone is set from the top, right? The tone is always set from the top. So people look to their pastors and, they got the suit and the tie, they got, they have everything in a certain order, and people just look at them and they assume that they're like the closest thing to Jesus that you could ever get to. And it's just to be reminded that there are pastors out there who did not, we grew up and woke up with our parents, and we did our morning worship with our parents, and then we did our little devotionals at night, we said our prayers, and we went to a church school, and then we did, we went to church college, and then I went to be a minister, and now I'm a pastor. Like, there are way more pastors than people realize that are real people that have gone through real situations, that have fought through real situations with God in their personal lives. Things have happened to them. Storms have crashed through their lives, and they relate more to their congregation than they think. And sometimes the pastors forget to share that side of them, like because they've reached this place. And you see it. You don't just see it in pastoralship. You see it everywhere.
I think I'm more open than pastors. I tell my people often that I wasn't born a pastor, and so don't try to mess with me, because I know what you're. People try when they have conversations with pastors. Sometimes they try to sugarcoat things, and I'm like, come on, man.
Just be real.
I've been there. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to me. If you really want to get better, we have to have an open, honest conversation.
Right.
But the reason that I first decided to be open about my past is very simple. When Jesus resurrected from the dead, he did not get rid of his scars. And those scars are my scars.
Yeah.
And if he's willing to keep my scars on his body, as a reminder of what it is that he's freeing me from, then there's no reason for me to hide those scars. Those are my scars. And the healing and blessings that have come from all the bad decisions that I've made because of his grace, that's something that should be a benefit to other people, not just me.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's so important for people to know that their pastors relate to them more than they realize, and that pastors like you should just be real. Like you don't have to put on a facade. You don't have to feel like all the weight is on your shoulders. It's really a community effort, And so I don't know. It's just refreshing to hear such a very, very interesting story of how you got where you are now. And it's funny because people will look at you and they'll be like, "You really did all that? Like, for real?" And it's like, that's the transformative power of God, though. That's exactly what that looks like.
The other day, this is within a few weeks ago, I was having a conversation with someone that's struggling with a drug addiction. And I'm asking them, "Hey, so how's it going?" Talking about honesty, right? And they're like, "Well, it's going better," and this and that and the other. I'm like, "Well, have you been using?" "Well, just a little bit. Not nearly as much as I used to." "Well, the point is here that you need to stop doing this because it's really harming you in many, many ways.
Right.
So you need to stop." And they said, "Well, it's just a friend of mine that came over and stuff." And I said, "Hold on a second. Did you pay this friend for the drugs?" And they're like, "Well, yeah." Like, that's not your friend. That's your dealer. And stop making excuses for yourself. Okay?
Not a friend.
I've been there. I know what it looks like. Yeah. I understand, that I know how they play themselves off as your friend and they come over to hang out, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But then, hey, give me my money. That's a dealer, all right? And you have to face that. You have to face the truth.
We need a new dictionary
of your situation. And that's another first step, is you have to face the truth of your situation before you can take a step in the right direction.
Yes. It's like face the truth and then surrender. That's it. Look at it and then surrender it. That's it. It sounds simple and it's like, oh, is it really that easy?
Oh, that's the hard part.
That's the hard part. Right, exactly. I'm like, no, it sounds easy, but it's not. It's not. The hard part. It's really not. So, man, that's great. Okay, so now I want to know about the girlfriend, though, because now you said we need to talk about this other paso, because I want to hear all these like in between mess ups.
Yeah.
Because that was a good paso that you just talked about. That decision was great, but I want to know about these ladies.
We were, surprisingly to me, when we were discussing what we were going to talk about, you said that you were interested in negative steps as well.
Yeah.
And and that's only fair. It's only fair that we be able to say, oh, listen, that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest mistakes that I've made, I think, like a lot of people, the biggest mistakes that I've made in my life are relationship mistakes. And like I told you earlier, I started dating when I was like 13 years old. You know, somebody else would have to drive me, right? And yeah, the whole nine. And between 13 and 30, I was in a lot of relationships, and some of them were really, really bad. And from those relationships, I ended up writing a very popular sermon of mine called "The Worst Advice Ever Given in the History of the World." Yeah. And the worst advice ever given in the history of the world, in my opinion, is follow your heart. Ooh. At the very beginning of these very bad relationships, I knew that it was going to be a disaster. I could tell. Now.
Tell the truth.
But they were these ladies, whom I still in the world of Facebook, years and years after all this stuff is over, someone, wants to friend you and you're like, who's this? And like, oh my goodness, it's crazy so-and-so. So I've gotten a look into some of these people's lives after I exited their lives.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of them are still nuts. Honestly.
Rough.
Honestly, the vast majority of them are still nuts. But I knew it going in. I said to myself, this doesn't look right. It doesn't, but she's so pretty, she's so beautiful, or she has this, or she has that, and I'm going to go and do that anyway. My wife, who I've been very happily married to for 17 years now, she's wonderful.
And her name is Grace.
Opposite. Yes.
The Lord tried to make sure you knew that message
everywhere. Every time I say her name, I think about that.
Yeah.
The Lord's grace to me. Yes. She's the exact opposite of what I was looking for in a woman.
Wow.
Honestly.
Wow.
Honestly. Wow. I'll tell you my type. I liked the dark, artistic, brooding type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really, yes. The artsy, whatever. If you remember, you don't remember. How old are you, Candace? You're like
30.
22. You're 30.
I know things. I might not know everything.
I know things. She says I know things.
I know things.
You're so beautiful.
Come on, I just, try me. I may or may not.
You know what you can know in your time. I mean, but I was going to remind you of things that you weren't around for, so you can't know those things.
But I'm an old soul. There's some things I know.
Well, there was the grunge movement in the 90s, and the dark hair and 9 Inch Nails and all of that. I was totally into, and the artsy girls that were.
Ooh, that was your type? The grunge?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I had long hair in Miami. Okay, long hair, ripped jeans, the boots. And flannel.
Okay,
and
the grunge movement in the 90s was really intense, and for you to have been in the scene that you were in Miami at the time, I'm not surprised that was like the style.
It was
draw,
intense.
But
it was intense. Yeah, and we were sweaty because flannel in Miami.
Oh, you right. Yeah. Y'all was sweaty. That's so sad. Y'all just be hot all together.
It was crazy. The long hair and everything. This is the longest that my hair has been since then, frankly.
Bless you. No wonder.
Yeah. Quarantine. I can't get a haircut. So I dated these. I'll tell you one story about this one girl.
Okay.
Who is, to this day, she's older than me, and she is drop dead gorgeous. She really is. All right. And that's what kept me going.
Oh, no.
In this relationship that I was in for way too long. So this girl, I would go over to her house, and after a few times, I started. I'm not exaggerating, Candace.
Just be real.
I started hiding the knives in
What?
her house.
What? Oh, what?
Because
Hold on.
we would
Whoa, hey, wait, stop, pause. That did not go in the direction I thought. You were I'm sorry. I just had a moment. So you were hiding her knives.
Yes.
But you were visiting her? Or were you
Yes.
living with her?
I would do that for my own protection because she would fly into these rages, and I felt like I had to, if she headed for the knives, I needed to know where they were.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out why you kept going back. Because we could have fixed this real quick. We could have just not gone to the location of the knives. That's just what's going in my head right now.
Candace, I prefaced this story with 2 facts. Okay? Fact number 1, I knew it was a bad idea. Fact number 2, she was gorgeous and remains to this day. Okay? How did you miss that?
He wasn't thinking right.
I wanted to make things as clear as I possibly could.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You literally went through this girl's house and just started hiding the knives. Did she get mad because the knives were missing? Because that's what I was like. Now you're making me extra mad because now I can't find my knives.
She would get mad for all sorts of things. She would fly into a rage, and when I got to know her better, and I met her father came to visit one time, and he was alcoholic and hardcore. I mean, he was drinking a fifth of whiskey every 30 hours. He was drinking a fifth of whiskey.
Oh my goodness!
And you can imagine what it was like to grow up with a father like that. And so I understand why, but it's still, I had a choice whether to stay in that situation or not.
Right.
And I stayed in that situation way more. I mean, I shouldn't have been in that situation. I knew from the beginning. I could smell that this was trouble.
Dang.
But I decided to follow my heart. I decided, and this is what I want to make. yeah, that too. It was so. The first, this is how crazy things work. Within the first conversation, I think about 2 sentences in, she shared a name with someone that I had been with before. And this somehow came up when she introduced herself. And when she found out this is like the 3rd sentence that comes out of her mouth. She said, "I won't break your heart, I promise." And when someone says that, the 3rd thing that they say when they've met you is, "I won't break your heart, I promise," that is a sure sign. And I knew this, Candace. I was very clear on this. I knew that she was going to, I absolutely was positive that this was going to be a disaster.
Dang.
But I decided to follow my heart anyway. Yeah. And here's when people say often, what's the guy's name from Apple that died? I can't remember his name.
Oh no, his name.
Apple Computer.
Why am I forgetting his name?
Yeah, I know. We're both.
Oh my gosh, this is so sad.
When you remember him, let me know and I'll stop my story. So people often say to me, "Well, so and so said that you should follow your heart." And so and so I heard on the or some famous person always telling them to follow their heart. And Steve Jobs. There
he is. Boom.
Yeah, Steve Jobs.
Steve.
Of course, everybody's listening to this shouting, "Steve Jobs!"
Right. How can not remember Steve Jobs? We remember, we just forgot.
I had this conversation late last year with a young person, and they were telling me the same thing. Well, Steve Jobs said that I should follow my heart. All right, first of all, you're not Steve Jobs, okay? Don't get yourself off of that cloud.
Right.
Okay? You are not Steve Jobs, number 1. And number 2, what Steve Jobs was talking about was his professional career, not his personal life. And you have to make a very big distinction between the two.
Yeah.
He had a vision for a machine that did not exist. Okay?
Yeah.
That is not what you're talking about.
No.
You're talking about hooking up with some lowlife over there, and you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. That's going to give you a rash that you can't get rid of. That is already got a baby mama somewhere else,
right?
And all these, you know up front all these bad things,
diseases.
And when you say I'm going to follow my heart, what you are actually saying, as I did so many years ago, is I know this is a bad idea. I know this is going to end badly, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's what you're saying. Because the alternative is, I'm going to follow my heart. What you're trying to say there, which is not the truth, okay? Let me preface this to make this very clear, is that this organ in your body that is disconnected from your brain somehow has a connection to some greater wisdom in the universe somehow, and that if you go along with this emotion, everything is going to be okay. And that is ridiculous. That's nothing short of absurd.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And the reason God gave you a brain was for you to look at the situation and say to yourself, is this going to end well, yes or no?
Yes. To reason.
When you say, I'm going to follow my heart, like I did, so this is not the only time, right? This is probably the most flagrant disregard for brainwaves that I ever had.
Oh my God.
Close. Somewhere around there. You know, it's the top 3. But when you do that, you're completely disregarding the purpose of your brain. And you're just saying, I know this is a bad idea, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. Because if you look at the memes, and we were talking about the memes earlier, and I challenged people to go out there and look at, type in follow your heart meme, and they're just hilarious. I mean, they're hilarious in a sad way.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it works. This is how stupid this is. It's a reason to get into trouble, and then it's a reason to accept the trouble that you're in. In other words, okay, people say, I can't do anything but follow I know this is a bad idea, but I'm going to follow my heart. And then, when their life is a shambles, and they have that rash that they can't get rid of, and they have all these other problems, and they've stolen your identity, and these are classic cases that I've seen. Once all these bad things have happened, and your life is much worse than it was before, people say to themselves, but at least I followed my heart. And that is like,
no sense.
Honest, what are you talking about? At least I followed at least I was true to myself. Then you have to ask yourself, who are you?
Right. Yeah. Ugh. And it's sad because they teach this follow your heart theme starts from childhood. Like, it's in all of our movie. Disney is literally a industry based off of follow your heart. Like, that's all it is. It's crazy. It looks so adorable. It looks so cute because they can create that, guys. Like, they can design, and by the way, they never tell you what happily ever after actually looks like. They don't show you what happens after. No one wants to see what happens after because you know why? It is not okay. It's not. So yeah, this whole follow your heart thing is atrocious. It's a thing. It's everywhere.
It's in movies. It's in songs. It's in
That's
cartoons.
How the industry gets all their
It's in everything, and we're bombarded with this idea from the time that we're children, and it is the worst advice. I can't tell you how badly that can go.
Yeah.
I really, in conclusion. And we're getting off not scot-free, but better off than I thought we would, because I thought that I might have to go through several stories to demonstrate my point. But I think that this one story was bad enough that everybody...
I think that
judging by your face?
Yeah.
Judging by your facial expressions.
Hide your kids, hide your knives? No. See, that was... Wow. I still have no words for what happened there.
As a Christian... If you're going to follow a heart, you have to follow the heart of God.
Yes.
That's where you have to go.
Yes.
When you're talking about wisdom and love and peace and joy and happiness, And that's what I told you that my wife is completely different than all these women.
Right.
That I dated earlier. I told you that deep, broody type mode. My wife, you know her, is very bright and positive and very capable. She doesn't need me, and that's one of the reasons that I felt like, wow, this is beautiful. All the other women needed me to fix them, and the drama is what finally chased me away. Like I couldn't, you get hauled into this stuff, but then you get tired of it too, and you can't live your life in this drama all 24/7 for forever.
Yeah.
Grace didn't need me. She was fine. She didn't need me to fix her in any way.
Yeah.
And so I started asking myself, and I started actually praying, Lord, what am I supposed to do? I don't know how to handle this.
Right.
What am I supposed to do? And the Lord finally, one night, very clearly said to me, Caesar, just enjoy what I've given you. I'm giving you something beautiful. You don't have a wreck in your hands. You have something beautiful. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's what I started to do. And we've been together 17 years. The 17 happiest years of my life.
Wow. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So then so from the relationship side, if you were to go back and do something different, what would you have done? In general. Not just with the knives lady.
I did a lot of self-destructive things, and I hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
Out of selfishness. I was in relationships with some women that deserved better than what I gave them. And I would go back and end those earlier because I was just simply not capable of giving them what they needed. I was just not mature enough. But it was, sadly, it was through those relationships that I learned that I wasn't mature enough. And so in a way, I couldn't have had the relationship with my wife until I had been through these situations.
Right.
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of maturing. That's the beauty of God, saying, okay, I'm going to take all these bad things and turning them into something beautiful. But I want to give some advice to the young ladies listening, and perhaps to some of the young men. And this is some of the things that I have learned from myself through the years and stuff. And this is one of the things that may be a little bit harder for me to say. Like I said, I wasn't I wasn't good to a lot of the young women that I was with. And you have to understand, ladies, that having limits on relationships, having borders, having safety in for yourself is incredibly important. When you are born and you come into this world, the entire world is yours, and you can do whatever you want. Then you come into a relationship with someone, you have to share this world with them. And you have to put up these boundaries to protect your world. And even good guys, even nice guys are going to test those boundaries. They will.
Wow.
And once they go over that boundary and you forgive them, you've erased that boundary. Now there's a new boundary, and this guy, and I know this because I've done it, will search again for where the new boundary is.
Wow.
And it continues and continues and continues till all your boundaries are knocked down, and you, like I said, you started with a whole huge world, and then you see women that are, in battered relationships where they're being abused physically or whatever, and they can't get out of them for one reason or another. What has happened is that all these boundaries have fallen. The boundaries that they should have kept up have fallen. And now instead of having this enormous world, they have this tiny little world that revolves around this one man.
Wow.
And that's what I keep seeing over and over again in my work as a pastor. When I meet people that are having, especially women that are having trouble with, and I say especially women, but men have the same issues as well.
Yeah.
There's some people out there that are are not meaning you good. And you have to be aware that it's up to you to protect yourself from those people. And that's why following your heart is not the way to go. But again, these boundaries are so incredibly important, because if you allow somebody to go past this boundary, then that boundary does not exist anymore, at least not for that person. They know that they can go further, and they'll take another step and see, well, let's see how far I can go.
Yeah.
That's to a great extent. Like I said, even good people will do that, because people are selfish.
Yeah.
And in relationships especially, people are trying to make themselves happy rather than make another person happy, and that's where true happiness is. You can't make. Happiness is shared. Do you know what I mean? Two happy people come together and they share happiness, and it multiplies. But two miserable people can't come together and make each other happy. I've never seen it work. I'm not going to say never, but I've never seen it work.
Yeah.
Two well-adjusted, happy people who know how to live correctly can come together and make something beautiful. But if you're just watching out for yourself, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen for you. You need to, and relationships is a whole nother issue that we can go through, perhaps outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. But you have to watch out for your boundaries.
And what would your advice be for guys, like specifically in how they, I don't know, prepare themselves for doing relationship right? To hear the rest of this episode, tune in next week here on First Paso.